Hello, and that you are going to looking at our topic number 4. We talk about decision making in data-driven environment. This topic is going to help us understand uh, matters around issues of data protection, what we need to do, issues around ethics, around matters to do with data, company data, individual data, and so on and so forth. And that's why we are saying the data revolution has transformed how we live, work, and make decisions. And we're also saying while data offers immense benefits, its ethical implications require careful consideration. So, the issues of data privacy are issues that could put an organization, individuals at a very dangerous route that could involve um, being sued for releasing people's data. That could also include getting into trouble, your image as a company being affected. And therefore, we need to know what do we do when we are dealing with people's data, part of which is very, very private. We also going to look at ethical challenges in data-driven decision making. One of the ethical challenges is bias and discrimination, where we have issues of algorithms and data that can perpetuate existing biases. And then this is going to lead to unfair and discriminatory outcomes. We gave an example in another lecture where algorithms are used to be able to determine uh, in an individual credit score in order for them to qualify for a loan. If those algorithms are not clear or we do not know how they are done, then probably we would tend to think maybe uh, a decision has not been made right in terms of your ability to qualify for a loan. So we have issues around biasness and discrimination. We also have issues around privacy concerns, where we need to balance the need for data collection and analysis with the individual privacy rights. So privacy rights need to be respected. We also have challenges around transparency and accountability on the need for us to understand how data is used, and ensuring accountability for its use is very, very crucial. And also finally, misinformation and manipulation. We are saying that data can be misused to spread misinformation or sometimes also manipulate public opinion. So we need to be aware of these challenges and know how we can be able to deal with them. We are also going to be discussing what we call the principles of ethical data-driven decisions. That includes principles of fairness and non-discrimination, the need for us to ensure decision-making processes are equitable and avoid biased outcomes, transparency and explainability, the need for us as organizations to be transparent about how data is used and make algorithms understandable. So we need to be communicating to whoever or the people that we have their data. Data could be person's ID cards, it could be a person's PIN numbers, the way banks have all this information in regards to their client. So there need to be transparency when you are asking people for their national ID numbers. What exactly do you intend to use them for if you are in business? We have had situations where people's ID numbers have registered mobile phone lines, and then at some point, those lines are involved in crime, and therefore you end up losing uh, your image even as a person. We also need to talk about privacy and data protection, the need to respect individual privacy rights and implement robust data security measures. And also finally, accountability and responsibility. We need to take ownership of data-driven decisions and consequences. We have a number of strategies that we can adopt for us to implement ethical data practices. Number one is educate yourself and your team. We need to build awareness of ethical challenges and practices. We need also to conduct data assessment, identify potential biases and privacy risks in your data and analytics. Also develop and implement ethical guidelines, establish very clear policies and procedures for data collection and sharing. We have various strategies for implementing ethical data practices. As a continuation, we also need to seek diverse perspectives where we are going to involve different stakeholders in decision making to ensure inclusivity and fairness. We also need to continuously review and update where we regularly assess and improve data practices. And this is based on evolving ethical considerations. Ethical frameworks for decision making. This is our next discussion, and we are talking about the complex world that we live in, being able to make ethical decisions that require careful consideration for various factors and potential consequences. Ethical frameworks that need to provide structured approaches to guide our analysis. And also in this presentation, we are going to explore prominent frameworks and their applicability. We have what we call the utilitarianism. This is a very great principle in matters ethics around data. And this particular principle suggests that the right course of action is the one that maximizes overall happiness or well-being and minimizes suffering for the greatest number of individuals affected by the action. It emphasizes on the need for everyone to make sure everyone is happy or the well-being for the greatest number of people. We have the strength of this model is that it focuses on maximizing positive outcomes and considers the impact of the affected parties. So one of the challenges is that it can be difficult to define and measure happiness potential for sacrificing minority interest for the majority. We also have something we call deontology as another very key framework, and we are saying the actions are right or wrong based on their inherent nature, regardless of the consequences. For example, you may be a student and you see someone in an exam room cheating. So deontology encourages us that cheating, of course, is going to violate the principles of integrity, fairness, and therefore it is important for us to be able to ensure that there are consequences, of course, when you report this person, but this is not right for someone to be able to do in an exam room. So the strength is that the deontology is going to provide a clear guideline based on universal moral principles and emphasis respect for individual rights. And the weaknesses is that it can be inflexible in situations with unforeseen consequences and may not always lead to the most beneficial outcome for all. We have something we call virtual ethics, and virtual ethics in simple is it focuses on character traits or virtues of individuals and how the virtues influence their behavior. Um, it will focus on developing and acting in accordance with the virtues of honesty, the virtues of courage, the virtues of compassion, the virtues of justice. So the key focus is to be able to cultivate virtuous character traits such as honesty, courage, generosity. We have mentioned about that. The strengths of this framework is that it encourages character development and moral reasoning and emphasizes on long-term benefits of virtuous behavior. And weaknesses is that it is subjective, interpretation of virtues, potential for conflict between different virtues in specific situations. We also have another framework we call the rights-based ethics. And we are saying the core principle of this framework is that it indicates the need for respect and protects fundamental human rights of all individuals. The strength is that it provides a strong foundation for protecting individual dignity and preventing harm, and also it promotes equality and justice. And the weaknesses of this is that balancing competitive rights can be challenging, potential for conflicting interpretations and limitations. Applying ethical frameworks in practice, the need for you to consider the specific context and stakeholders involved in the decision, and also they need to be able to identify relevant ethical principles for different frameworks. Also, the need for you to be able to analyze potential consequences of different options based on the chosen principles, and also the need for us to be able to engage in dialogue and consider diverse perspectives. We need to make a decision that aligns to your chosen ethical principles and that is justified rationally. Yeah? Conflict between business goals and ethical data use. In today's data driven world, businesses constantly seek innovative ways that are going to utilize information for achieving goals. So there are, however, ethical considerations that need to be put in place regarding to data privacy, regarding to fairness, regarding to transparency, and sometimes these practices can be able to clash with our goals and then creating dilemmas. We are going to look at common conflict scenarios. The first one is targeted advertising versus privacy. Personal data collection and profiling for targeted ads can conflict with individual privacy rights. And then also algorithmic efficient versus fairness. The algorithms might optimize for specific goals while creating biased outcomes. Like the way I've given an example of algorithms being used to determine who qualifies for a loan and what amount. Sometimes, if that information is passed to a client, they would feel that it is biased against them. The other one is common conflict scenarios, issues around data monetization versus transparency. Sharing or selling user data can generate revenues, but raises concerns about transparency and control, and also issues around innovation versus responsible development. Rapidly developing data-driven technologies might outspace established ethical frameworks. We are going to look at strategies for ethical conflict resolution. What we need to do: number one, we need to prioritize transparency and stakeholder engagement. So we openly communicate data practices and involve stakeholders in decision making. The second one, it can be able to conduct a thorough data impact assessment, evaluate potential ethical risks and consequences of data-driven initiatives, and also establish clear guidelines and policies. The need for us to define principles and procedures for data collection. They need to be well laid out so that if you are going to clients, maybe to collect certain data, they can be able to understand in advance why we are doing it. We have a number of strategies also as a continuation, also the need for us to implement robust data governance and oversight, ensure accountability and adherence to ethical principles through internal controls, and also seek diverse perspectives and expert advice, engage with ABCs, data privacy professionals, and other relevant experts. Building a culture of ethical data use, promote ethical awareness and education, the need for us to train employees on responsible data practices and considerations, and also the need to empower employees to raise ethical concerns, foster a culture where reporting ethical dilemmas is encouraged. So we need to ensure that employees are empowered to report when they have ethical dilemmas. Finally, on data security and risk management, we need to incentivize ethical decision making. So incentivizing is borrowed from rewarding. So we reward employees who prioritize ethical principles over short-term business gains. And then also they need to continuously monitor and update data practices. That means we regularly assess and adapt your approach based on evolving ethical considerations and regulations. So thank you so much. You can always do more research around this discussion and ensure it is of benefit to you.